Hello again, and welcome everyone to Sam's 10-Minute Tuesdays. Today's topic is pretty cool because it actually, we've been kind of alluding to it for weeks now, even a couple months, without even realizing it. It's about the Sam's or the four truisms of Sam, but has right to do. It plays well into what our slogan is that Joe made up. Welcome, Joe.
Mickey, and you know what? Sales is an activity game, and introductions allow you to win the game every single day. And so let's talk about, sales being an activity or a numbers game, please.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. That's what I realized early on, that I needed to make X number of sales calls and service calls every day, and the better, and so it's a numbers game. So quantity is almost, it's not everything, but it's most things. So you need to make the right number of activities, whether it be calls, contacts, appointments set, whatever it is. But you also has to be efficient, has to be quality also. But you certainly, Joe, are a great example of that when you start out with the NML, doing your race meetings and activity tracking. It was a numbers game.
Absolutely. We were taught that if you didn't keep 15 appointments per week, you're going to fail, period, case closed. And so I'll just leave now. Okay, so that was impressed upon me as a college intern. And so when I went full time, I was at 15 plus right away. And a good friend of mine, Mark Fine, who mentored me for a little while, literally said, if 15 a week is needed to survive, I'm not the smartest guy around. I'm going to do 20 a week. And I'm going to succeed sheerly because of that. And so I just stole it from Mark Fine. So that's one of the first things about activity. The second thing, I was talking with a coaching client earlier today, and it's about repetition.
Yep.
One of the things that is critical is getting enough reps in as a rep to be able to succeed. So if you're only getting 10 meetings a week versus somebody getting 20 meetings a week, they're going to get twice as much experience. So at 6 months, they're going to have a year worth of experience by comparison. Right. And at the end of a year, they're going to have 2 years worth. And so their growth is going to be so far ahead of you because they've literally gotten so many more at bats, literally. Now that's baseball season. A baseball player truly becomes great only after they have 2,500, 3,000, 5,000 professional at bats who recognize what's going on. Same thing in our field. The greater activity that you have, you can recognize curveballs that are going to be thrown at you by the client and either not react to them or hit them out of the park.
Right. All right. Yeah, baseball certainly fits. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, I was actually named after Mickey Mantle. So that's near and dear subject to my heart. But certainly all the metrics matter. No matter what you're in, whether it be tennis, golf. How many fairways off the tee, how many tees in regulation, what your average putts are. But in sales, you can take it to the bank, And when I started out, I accidentally kind of discovered activity management when I was an experienced agent, and what happened was my business fell off track, and I was very successful already, and won the trips, won the car, got the gold star, built a big house, and my business fell off track, and I thought, how can I get back on track? I realized I didn't go back to what I was doing when I first started, and that's keeping score, setting goals and keeping score of how many sales and service calls I made. Now, unlike yourself, I didn't need quite as high of activity. I was all B2B, so I was 3 and 3. I needed 3 service calls and 3 sales calls a day, and most of those are drop-ins. They were businesses I actually went to physically, so didn't sound like a lot, but 3 and 3 was the goal. And as long as as soon as I started going back to the basics, my business started to prosper again. And ultimately, that's what led to starting the company. And I realized, hey, this stuff works. And guess what? There are a lot of other experienced mentors and icons in the insurance business that like Al Graham, like Harry Hoopus, like Howard Cowan back with Mass Mutual, or Doug Lennox with American Express Financial Advisors. All these companies had this talking the same thing, but they weren't calling it the same thing. You know what I mean? It was called the Witty Whippy. What do you want for yourself? And the one card system, or the client builder, or the gold system. Everybody was talking around it, but finally it was kind of cool we just accidentally gave it a name, because I thought, well, what are we talking about? What kind of activities? Like sales activities. And that's what we're talking about today. It's really the 4 truisms of SAM, or sales activity management, and sales and numbers game. It's really one of the most powerful ones. It's the first one for a reason, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, because people are busy in the business and they're not being productive because they're spending their time on the wrong activities. They're not spending on sales activities. You know, an example is the people who cold call, and they have to make 100 cold calls to be able to get 1 appointment, versus getting a referred lead where you have to make 5 or 7 dials to get that same thing. And the results are more likely to come through. It is the person who's spending all day long dorking around on the internet doing research, or stuff like that, as opposed to picking up the phone or sending emails or doing what is actually necessary to generate sales.
Mm-hmm.
It is, how many people are you actually seeing and having the proper conversations with, as opposed to going to chamber functions and attending this and attending that, where they're not getting introductions, where they're not opening proper discussions. So they're busy, but they're not being productive. So they're doing stuff, but they're not doing sales activities. And so SAM USA is all about having sales activity management and managing, because you measure the important activities, the important steps to building your business.
It really comes down to it. Everything's about numbers, even the X and Y chromosomes. That determines ultimately what sex you are. I mean, how many miles a plane flies is about the metrics, it's a numbers game. My wife is big into steps and calorie counting on occasion, and how many steps they're gonna do a day. But when it comes to sales, what I like to remind everybody, and I know you've seen this a lot of times, is in the back of our SAM book, in the front of our SAM book, we actually have a printout of why keep score, and it's basically why sales is a numbers game. And this breaks down for anybody that wants to be further convinced. Just look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. Go to your book if you have one, or go to our website. It's a free download under downloads. But sales is a numbers game, and it outlines start to finish what happens if you increase those numbers. There's just 3 metrics: closing interviews, closing ratio, and average case size. But if you just increase from 10 closing interviews per month to 12, and your closing ratio, which doesn't sound like a lot, right? Just two more, and then your closing ratio of from 50 to 60%. Well, most people don't know that because they don't keep score. But that's why you should keep score. Increase your income, your average commission or average case by 20% or 30%. One example, in the book, it shows an 87% improvement in your income, a spike in your income, just by increasing those numbers by those percentages. And if you do 20% each of all 3 of them, 20 times 20 times 20, it's a compounding effect. You actually go up 74%. So you go from making $60 grand a year to $94,000 a year, or whatever the number is. It's fantastic. But that's why Joe and I are so big on why sales and numbers game. And Joe, again, I love your quote. You made it up. I can't take credit. It's not just a numbers game. It's a what?
Sales is an activity game, and introductions allow you to win that game every single day.
Thanks again for joining us, everybody. Make it a great week.